All right, today we are diving into a really fascinating story from Baja California Sur. It's all about how a local community has built this incredibly powerful model for sustainable tourism. And it's a model that's built not just on rules, but on a deep, deep sense of sovereignty. It's a question you see popping up all over the world, right? You've got these stunningly beautiful places, perfect for tourism and water sports, but how do they stop themselves from being, well, loved to death? How do you balance a healthy economy with protecting the very culture and ecosystem that make the place special to begin with? Well, down in this part of Mexico, the answer goes way beyond just making a few regulations. The communities here have basically established a system where their local authority is the law. And that creates this powerful shield against the kind of runaway development that's really gutted other destinations. And this whole philosophy is just perfectly summed up in this local saying. They say, this community has decided to live for the sea and not just from it. I mean, that's a huge shift, right? It's moving away from just taking what you can get and toward a real partnership with nature. It's the principle behind everything we're about to unpack.
So let's get into the foundation of this whole model. We're not talking about some voluntary program. This is a system of legally binding rules. To do any kind of business here, whether you're a big developer or a small tour operator, you first have to earn what they call a social license to operate. And that basically means you need the community's approval, and you have to keep it.
So where does all this power come from? Well, it's rooted in a unique legal structure in Mexico called the Ejido. Think of it like this. It's a form of communal territory. Individual members don't own a plot of land like you'd own a house. Instead, the community collectively has the legal right to use it, to manage it, and to benefit from it. The key thing to understand is that Mexican law itself gives these local communities a really powerful, constitutionally backed way to control their own futures. And here's the kicker that makes this so powerful. This isn't just some local tradition they made up. It's actually backed by the Mexican Constitution. So when the Ejido Assembly, the community's governing body, creates its own internal rules for things like tourism and development, they register them with the National Agrarian Registry. And once they do that, boom, they become federal law. This turns their local rules into what you could call an industrial-grade legal shield.
And you can really see what a huge difference this makes. I mean, look at the contrast between the old predatory way of doing things and the community's new standards. They say no to developers who want to drain the local water for fancy landscaping. Instead, they demand projects be 100% self-sustaining. They stop those cut-and-run developers by making them post a 10-year bond. And they make sure the money stays local through mandatory hiring. It is a complete and total rejection of that old exploitative model.
You know, these modern rules didn't just appear out of thin air. They're built on a legacy of guardianship that goes back thousands of years. The community really sees itself as carrying forward a trust inheritance, this sacred duty to protect the land and the sea that's been passed down from the very first people who lived on this coast. This legacy goes way, way back to the ancient Paraku people. They were known as the ocean people, true masters of the sea. And get this isn't just a story, it's literally written in their bones. Archaeologists have found bony growths in their ear canals, a condition that today we call surfer's ear. It's direct physical proof of a life spent in and under the water, deep water diving. That history is the moral foundation for everything they do today. So today, that ancient responsibility is being carried forward by key local families. The Lucero, Giraldo, and Green families, they're the ones who really architected what everyone now calls the Agua Amarga model. They blended that ancestral knowledge of the sea with modern conservation to create what is now the gold standard for the whole region. Okay, so with their authority firmly established, the community put in place a set of really precise, totally non-negotiable mandates. And these are all designed to protect the very fragile balance of their marine ecosystem. And we're not talking about vague suggestions here. This is all about hard numbers. There's a strict cap. Only 16 boats are allowed in the main observation areas at any one time. Federal authorities, they only issue 50 permits for whale and orca sightings for the entire season. And it's all for a good reason. They're trying to protect this tiny, vulnerable population of just 20 to 22 eastern tropical Pacific orcas. Now here's a concept that is absolutely central to their strategy. It's called acoustic integrity. They literally treat silence as a physical resource. See, the local orcas have this unique hunting technique called the Mabula slam, and to pull it off, they need a quiet environment to communicate. So too much engine noise, what they call acoustic smog, is seen as a direct threat, a kind of habitat destruction. And this approach is just brilliant. It's all based on respect. Their orca standard requires boats to be engine neutral.
Guides don't chase the animals, they just wait. An interaction only happens if the orcas or whales show curiosity and decide to stick around for at least 15 minutes on their own. The goal is simple, really. Let the animals be animals, on their terms.
Okay, so they've got this amazing system to protect the animals, but that same level of rigor and detail, it also applies to keeping humans safe. They've developed the system of co-responsibility, where every single person out on the water is part of a shared safety net. It's designed to prevent carelessness and protect the whole community's resources.
It all comes down to their float plan system and what they call the 30-60 rule. It's super simple. Every boat has to log a plan with an estimated time of arrival. If you're 30 minutes late checking in, your contact on shore starts making calls. If you hit 60 minutes late with no word, a community-wide search is launched automatically. This simple rule prevents so many false alarms that would otherwise drain search and rescue resources.
And just so you know, these aren't just informal guidelines people talk about on the beach. No way. They are written down, codified, in official audit check sheets that cover everything from GPS trackers to first aid certifications. Compliance here is not a suggestion.
So you might be wondering, okay, they have all these great rules, but how are they actually enforced? Well, the community calls it active enforcement, and in their own words, following the law is now the price of admission. There is absolutely zero tolerance for anyone trying to operate in the gray areas.
And that enforcement goes deep into labor practices to make sure the local economy is protected. There's a federal law that requires a 90-10 ratio of Mexican to foreign workers, and here, they actually enforce it. Unauthorized foreign workers are found and sent packing, and there's even an anonymous online portal where the community can report violators. It's all about making sure the jobs and the money stay local.
Now, check this out. Here's a fascinating little detail about how they enforce things. Something as simple as the name an operator uses for the area can be a huge red flag. The correct historical name is Ensenada de Muertos. If someone uses the old defunct developer name, Bahía de los Sueños, it's an immediate signal to inspectors that this person is clueless about local sovereignty and probably isn't following the rules.
And the consequences for breaking the rules, they are crystal clear. They have this yellow/red card system that lays everything out. You forget to close your float plan? That's a yellow card, and a mandatory donation to the safety fund. Your carelessness triggers a massive search and rescue operation? That's a red card, and you're banned from the water for 30 days. And if you harass the wildlife? That's a direct red card. You are banned permanently, no questions asked.
Which, of course, brings us to the final, really big question here. Could this incredibly local model, this mix of legal power, cultural history, and strict enforcement, could this be a blueprint? Could it be a way to protect other precious, threatened places all around the globe? It's definitely a powerful idea worth thinking about.